We are here. It is wet, but not as wet as we honestly expected. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another evening on RCI for Season 6 of the Multi-Sprint Series, the finale of the Multi-Sprint Series. This is round 3, and we are at Autodromo Enzo Edino Ferrari, better known as Imola. We're already underway with a bit of GT3 carnage in qualifying. Everybody struggling to get laps in because the rain's coming down. The circuit is getting wetter, and it will stay wet all evening long, all race long. My name is Jack Mays. Joining me in the booth tonight is Jesse Lee, and of course, Mr. Ted Edwards is the man on the cams, our race director and race broadcaster, keeping us on a short leash as per usual. Imola is one of my favorite circuits that exists. It's possibly my favorite circuit of all time. When it's a bit wet, bit different, bit difficult, but Carl's already getting to it. When the session started a few minutes ago, it wasn't as wet as it is now, so it very well might be that the times aren't going to get any quicker. It's pretty much turned into a one-shot qualifying. I mean, as we're seeing on the timing screen and on screen as well, everybody's down on their time. The current provisional pole sitter, Rune and Zabamber, is down hugely on their time, but fortunately they're up at the top, so might be some upsets in qualifying, Jesse. And well, everybody was instructed to get their umbrellas out. That seems to have reigned true. The reigning Club International is alive and well.
Certainly strikes again, doesn't it, Jack? Of course, nobody improving, like you said, just the track deteriorating. Nobody's going to be able to do anything about it on the timing and scoring pile, unless, of course, you had an absolute mare of a lap earlier on in this qualifying session. But this is still really good practice, and that's why you see the vast majority of the LMGT3 field out there. This is good practice. This is sort of a live session. This will have blended in right from where they left it earlier, and it's just a good time to get some laps in there. Excuse me.
Yeah, no, I think it's a very, very good point. I mean, we had a practice session going on before this, a quick 20-minute before the race started. Of course, one of our drivers as well hosting a session before the race, as they always do. And it was a bit up and down. In that session, the rain came in heavy. It started to slack off a little bit, and the track actually dried out. And I've become quite a bit more familiar with the weather in LMU in weeks past, but I think we're in for a bit of a treat. Ryan Gill all over the place in his anime-clad AMG LMGT3, but I do think no shockers coming in. A couple improvements in sectors for certain cars, I will freely admit, but nobody going in for a shocker, Jesse. I do think qualifying is all but completed, and it's just a good old-fashioned practice session. Find your way around. What this makes me think is hypercar qualifying going to be the same thing? It is up to the way that track dampness is sort of ordered in LMU. For those who are unfamiliar, is there's percentages. Right now it is up to very wet, which is 60% wetness. It can go up to extremely wet, which is 100% wetness. And I wonder, Jesse, with the amount of rain that's coming down now, is it going to be enough so that the track soaks to fully wet before hypercar qualifying is finished? Are they going to get a couple of good laps under them, or is it going to be a one-shot affair?
I think what you're going to see is a mad dash out of the pit lane for the hypercars, honestly. I think even if that isn't the case, I think you have to worry about that being the case, and I would imagine you might see the cars already start to line up just a little bit, just to queue up, as the qualifying hasn't come to an end yet in LMGT3. Of course, we don't expect anyone to improve, but several cars out there still, again, using this as sort of a practice session alive sort of test to push their cars. Of course, if you go off right now, it doesn't really matter. You haven't lost anything. You still keep your grid position in the race. And this is, again, this is good information to have. Joe Dauber trying to make a pass here in their Corvette. And you're learning all the time in changeable conditions. But to your point about the hypercars, yeah, I would absolutely line them up at the end of pit row. And looks like Kevin Boss is going to be towing back to the pit lane. That will be qualifying done and dusted for them. Being told that Gutsenberger has been given a penalty in qualifying. Now, they haven't done anything yet. Looks fine. Looks fine here. Now, is there going to be a pit lane infraction coming in? That's a little too quick. That's way too quick. They're not going to be able to slow down, and they didn't.
Yeah, you can see the car sort of lurches forward right when he lets off the brakes, and he's like, okay, I've hit 60 kph. But ultimately, that penalty means nothing in qualifying, after all. It is not something that gets taken on over to the grid for the race. It is a full lineup of hypercars, Jesse, and I know as you enjoy it as much as I do. Everybody just stacked, waiting, just urging each other. All right, how many more seconds? 12 more seconds, 11, 10, and they want to get going as soon as pit lane is available. I think that is just about the entire hypercar grid we're going to see rushing onto circuit at the same time. But it does look like Rune and Zimpamber is going to be on pole position in GT3. Martin Lorink follows them on the front row. Joe Dauber third, Ruel in fourth, and Klaus Nyring round out your top five. That is a sight to behold. Everybody getting underway. They're going to find position on track. I imagine they're probably not even going to think about spreading out all that much, because after all, they could be a bit of suffering if they, oh, I'm going to back off. Maybe I won't do this first hot lap. After all, it might be an affair where the circuit is a heck of a lot wetter.
No, absolutely not.
You think that this is the race start.
Yeah, this looks like lap one, folks. I promise you, we're still knee deep in qualifying here at rainy Imola, and I would have to imagine we get to Sector 3 after Aqua Minerale, which might be underwater Minerale here today. They're going to have to sort this out after the chicane, because they do not want to run this close together. What happens if one of the cars gets into trouble in front of them? They're all way too close. Exactly my point right there. A little bit sideways under the brakes there, the ABS, et cetera, so forth, rain. But yeah, this is a madhouse, Jack. There's days where I'd want to be out there on the racetrack. This ain't one of them. I'm happy I'm up here and dry.
Yeah, I'm certainly glad for it. And this is everybody stacking up in the final corner.
Now they're
Rabazza
doing
too.
it. Oh,
this is almost like what you see in Formula One qualifying, but there's a Ferrari who's sort of done a bit of an illegal. You're not supposed to overtake after Sector 3 in qualifying, jumping right ahead of Callum Kerrigan.
Well, we're stopping in front of it. What is he supposed to do?
Well, yes, but I don't know. Rules are stupid. I think we should just have anarchy on circuit.
Well, congratulations. That's what you have here. Everybody did make it away cleanly. A couple of slides. Glumbo there with a slide as well. Nothing catastrophic, though. Pretty much everybody on the track except Merrill's. Merrill's is in the pit lane. They're the only hypercar that is. They are not in the field, though they are showing up on the list. I thought I just saw Kerrigan come in or do an outlap, just start an outlap rather. And they are going to be on the opposite side of the racetrack compared to the rest of the field. But of course, we suspect the track is going to continue to deteriorate, which would mean that they would, in theory, run slower anyway. But will they, with the pack all tightened up together? One car that has got out in front and has no such issues is Smits.
Yeah, Dion Smits, he was at the front of the pack, and fortunately he's getting out. Milan van der Vecken is just behind. I will say, Jesse, the circuit's already up to a theoretically maximum wetness, what is known as extremely wet, which I think is an extremely apt, uh, you know, way of saying that there's a lot of standing water, a lot of puddles. I will say, as another tip for LMU, those puddles are purely just there for show. They don't actually affect the cars. You won't be seeing anybody dipping into a puddle and having an issue. But because it's already up to extremely wet, I think this is going to be a fairly normal-ish qualifying session. I think all drivers are going to maybe be improving, finding themselves quicker and quicker throughout the session. Though this man, Thomas Kalberg, at the moment, looking to be the quickest on track. It's a purple Sector 1 and Sector 2. Is it going to be 3 for 3 for Sector 3? He's going to come across the line. He's actually not going to go up to the top of the list. Third is what it's going to be. So must have lost some time in the third sector. After all, speaking of some of the drivers, Ravazza won that downhill braking zone for the penultimate corner. No ABS reminder in these cars, Jesse. It's just fear, commitment, and I don't know what else. Swag?
Fear of commitment. You just, I mean, what are we talking about? Are we talking about how most relationships end? Is that what we're talking about? Is this Lonely Hearts? Moving swiftly on, looks like the usual suspects up front, but there we go, another car off of the racing surface. Now, this is going to be the interesting thing. Will anyone else improve upon where they are currently? We'll pay attention to that as the current running order updates, or rather doesn't. 1/10, or actually 1.5, or excuse me, 15/100ths off of pole is Clay. And oh my goodness, cars off left, right, and center all of a sudden here in the middle part of this quali session.
Yeah, the car we're on board with now, Mohamed Colombo, is improving, showing that there is time still to be found. It's going to be up to second position across the line. Huge improvement, putting a bit of pressure on Giacomi there on provisional pole position. The Genesis driver of Eduardo Di Giacomi has sort of been all to themselves. They've been utterly rapid in the opening 2 rounds, and we'll see if that's going to be the same case here. That is a Genesis in the gravel in the background, I believe. Not sure who that is. Colombo's going to come to a stop. I think they said that is as good as I can possibly do. Wipe the sweat from their brow and get prepared for the race start. 4 minutes remain in the qualifying session, and everybody feeling their way around the circuit. I have a sneaking suspicion that this is going to be very representative of the opening conditions of the race. Maybe we'll see it where it dries out a bit, then the wetness is going to start to go, but I don't think there's a doubt, Jesse, that this isn't going to be full wet race. I don't think we're going to be seeing any wet to dry. It's just soggy. Soggy is the day.
You know, it's interesting, too, because I was just looking at this onboard that Ted Edwards has on it. It looks like the footage is sped up, is what it looks like. And consider that they're going about 10-ish seconds a lap slower than they would be doing if it was a primed, dry racetrack. That is absolutely incredible. We're still topping 250 kph going down into Ravazza. That is an incredible amount of pace in these wet conditions. This isn't even mildly damp. This is a full-on wet race, and they're still absolutely hauling the mail around the track. And that's something I want to pay attention to in the race right there, Jack, is we saw one of the GT cars blow through pit entry and get themselves into trouble. Everyone's going to have to make a stop, and everyone's going to have to get their cars woed down. And I didn't see a lot of cars practicing pit stops.
Yeah, the hope is that everybody did it before they came in, maybe in the practice session. Martin Vaselli in Varianti Villeneuve finding himself around. Excuse me, that's actually Varianti Tamburello. But finding themselves around early on, and it doesn't look like it's getting any easier. I think dealing with being on the throttle now that we're on board with him, I think maybe it's a bit too much chicane, and oh no, it's the TC sort of starts to kick in, and then it can't really handle the amount of power being put through the car, so it slowly starts to go around. But quickly back in, gravel doing its job, slowing everybody down, and I think it will do an even better job today as it would do normally, because gravel, when wet, turns into mud. So I'm hoping, Jesse. It seemed like there wasn't as high of an attrition rate at Paul Ricard last week as there was at Spa, and I hope that we continue the trend and most cars will finish the race because that would be super super impressive from a highly talented field.
Yeah, the other thing they have going for them is, yeah, we know it's very wet indeed, but you can sort of have crashes here at Imola. It's hard to describe, but not a lot of crashes here actually result in DNFs simply because of the sort of the gravel traps and the runoff that you have here. I feel like at Spa, it's always a short trip to a wall somewhere, and the corner profiles here at Imola just completely different, and you're able to kind of get away with it a little bit a lot of the time. And so I suspect we'll have less attrition than round one, but more than last week is what's going to happen here, I would imagine. That being said, watch it be completely different. No real change up at the top, except Colombo has taken P2. So there was an improvement beyond the very first laps that they did. And look at Colombo again, the fastest of all. Purple Sector 1, but lost almost all of that time back in Sector 2. They're going to have one amazing Sector 3 here to even, if they break par for their fastest here in Sector 3, they still may be within a chance by half of a tenth.
Yeah, it's so close, the margin. Seeing that the top two are less than a tenth apart in a normal dry qualifying session is impressive enough, but they're doing it in the wet in two completely different hypercars. He's going to get a little bit
Oh,
wide out of Rivazza 2. That's going to slow him down. That might also give him a track limit penalty and invalidation. He's not even going to come across the line. He knows that it's a bit over there. A final dash, a final bit of pressure maybe for Eduardo Di Giacomi, but they're going to cross the line. Oh no, I'm down to my time. That's okay. Everybody else is as well. It is going to be pole position for Giacomi. That's 3 for 3, I do believe. A bit of pit entry practice and a bit of Billy Octane in the grass. He's back in full strength in multi-sprint. We missed him in the first couple of rounds, but he's back, and Ted's happy because there's one more Cadillac on the circuit, and it sort of just looks like he wants to get back into his pit box and dry off. He's tired of this.
well, Billy Octane, one of my favorite drivers of all time, very charismatic. The Estonian driver, several times winner in multiple series. The list of accolades go on, and LMU is it's just another mountain for him to climb, quite frankly. And we'll see if they can do that today. And, you know, if you're going to have a mistake, if you're going to speed in the pit lane, if you're going to slam into a wall or aquaplane, any of these things, if you're going to get it wrong, you might as well do it in qualifying after you've set your lap and know that everything's going to get reset. And that's the best part about qualifying. Jacques
Yeah,
on pole again in the hypercar class. Jack, take us through the results.
yeah, it was a bit of an interesting qualifying session for sure, but it is Giacomi on the pole yet again, though we may be having a bit of a gremlin in the system letting us know. There we go. There they all are. Rune and Zipamber in the one-shot qualifying was able to put it on pole. Martin Lorick in second place. Joe Dauber will start third. Gabrielle Ruel in fourth. Klaus Nyring fifth. Christopher Streppen sixth. Matt Townsend is going to start in seventh. Good qualifying result for Kevin Boss up in eighth in the Pfaff Lamborghini, the greatest car on the grid. Daniel Hearn is in ninth, and Ryan Gill will round out the top 10 for LMGT3 qualifying. And well, apparently Kevin Boss is here again, but I know for a fact that we
Who
missed our
gave him a
window.
cloning machine?
I don't know. We don't need more than one. One is plenty.
I didn't say that, Kevin Boss.
I I
Well,
did, and I will own it.
moving swiftly on from the results of qualifying to the championship standings.
It
Eduardo
is.
Di
Oh no, go
Giacomi,
ahead.
10 points ahead of Clay. It's just very close still. We only had 2 rounds, but Jack, you're better with the names. You take us through it.
I'm better than that. The names. Oh, jeez. But no, it's of course Giacomi up at the top of the field, 10 points to separate themselves with Upton Clay in second. Martin Vaselli third. It's a bit of a gap once you get out of the top two, but still plenty of season to happen. Zeno Van Drisha in fourth, Wojciech Rybecki in fifth, Thomas Kauberg in sixth. Kind of have reasonable expectations for him. He was very quick in practice, and I think he's going to be very quick in race trim here tonight. Reese Wilkinson is in seventh, Matt Scoro eighth, Fabian Schmidberger in 10th, and Milan van der Vecken is your top 10 for the hypercar standings. Rune and Pamper. It's almost like the guys that are quick in foot qualifying are also quick in the race, so they're also leading the championship. Imagine that. He's leading the champ. Christopher Streppen very close behind in second place. Emo Plate is in third. Klaus Neiring, fourth position. Daniel Hearn, fifth. Jens Varparige in sixth. Martin Lorink, seventh. Matt Townsend in eighth. Lars Kestemont in ninth. And Joe Dauber in the Corvette. I cannot believe he decided to drive that car. Rounds out the standings as we come in to round three. I think it's going to be exciting. And I think it's not quite as wet, actually, Jesse. I think the circuit's dried out just a little bit. The rain is about the same, though, so maybe they'll get a lap or two before it gets to full wet conditions. So it's going to be an ever-evolving race, and it's going to be tricky in the opening moments. But we'll be underway in a few minutes. Jesse, any pre-race predictions?
Yeah, I got one prediction for you. This is going to be chaos. Nobody is going to be safe. The track conditions are likely going to be changeable, whether that's changeable for the good, meaning the track sort of dries out a little bit, the rain comes down a little less hard, or we get a deluge like we were sort of having in qualifying and it goes the opposite direction. This is a very dynamic situation. So, one way or another, this is going to be a very difficult race to get on with. And every lap, your braking points, your sort of traction is not going to be where you left it. And especially on the start here, where everybody is going to be in a pack of cars, this is going to be incredible for the cars sort of in the mid to the back of their respective packs. You're not going to be able to see anything coming into turn 2 and 3. It's going to be every driver for themselves. My prediction: chaos.
I think you're fair. I think you're right. I don't think you're going to be mistaken in any form or fashion. But we got a little bit of
Somebody's going to arrive at Tamburello and not realize they've arrived at Tamburello.
That is absolutely. There was a request for a livery inspection by the only Jacob Tucky, who has made the switch to the GT3 car, the Metallica liveried Lamborghini. Not the biggest Metallica fan myself, but I am a humongous fan of the Lamborghini Huracan GT3. So good to see another one of those on circuit. I think there's 3 of them tonight, which I'm just tickled by that. But we get underway for the short formation lap. This is one of those times where I guarantee drivers really wish that they had the option to do a full formation, because that gives you a much better idea of the wetness of the circuit. Yes, you are going a lot slower than you will be, but there's a good chance you could feel it out a little bit better. The forecast on screen: it's wet, it's going to stay wet, it's going to rain, it's going to stay raining. But at the moment, it's not fully wet, though it might be. It's going to be an ever-changing race all the way through, and it is going to be chaotic. Just a few moments before we are green flag and underrunning, it will be Giacomi taking it from the pole for the third time. Will he be able to transfer it into leading on lap 1? Maybe. He's off to the races, and a huge jump at the green flag. I think there's a good chance for him, but now all 30-plus cars racing down towards turn 2. A little bit of hip and check for the hypers at the front of the field, but into the braking zone. It's too wide. It's actually going to be Colombo who's going to try to get it through. He's gotten it through, but got to cut the circuit to do so. Drama already top 4, leading away from the rest of the field. And I have to say, back of shot, everybody pretty much looks like they're all lined up there. We'll see, though,
That's
Jesse.
almost...
I think...
Oh, you had to say it. Car going around, spun out of the middle. Didn't make it to the hairpin. That's Clay. Clay has gone around out of third position. And another car, the 36, has gone off and into the wall. Not the hardest hit, but still, I think that's Vandervoken who has gone off before we've made it to Aqua Minerale. And just as we thought, it was about as clean as it was ever going to get, especially with the spicy racing at the front of the field. It has gone completely wrong for a couple of the hypercars. I did see that Gutstenberger did get a drive-through penalty, but I wonder if that's been cleared because it has now disappeared. But they did have a penalty, and it has gone. I wonder if Ryan Gill in the race has removed that penalty. 85, Townsend has gone off. They've rejoined. I don't see any major damage to that car. I think most of the damage will have been done in the timing and scoring of that car. Meanwhile, the fight continues here. Elbows out at the end of lap 1.
Yeah, it seems that Giacomi's dropped back just a little bit. He's now under threat in getting overtaken by Thomas Calberg out of Ravazza 2. This has been huge news for Colombo. He's gotten some time to lead out in front of the field. My question is, will that stand? There was maybe a little bit of fiddle with track limits there in turn 3, but it's elbows out all the way through the fields here. You'd think they're racing in the dry. A bit of a move from Calberg to try to block as they go into Varianti Villeneuve, and they're lining up. I think Zino Vandrisha and Martin Vaselli just behind are licking their lips. They're like, ooh, this could go so wrong. We could get some positions out of this one. A little bit of a touch, but I think Calberg got away with it. That could have been really bad into Tosa. Well stopped by Giacomi and well held by the Peugeot driver. It seems that Martin Vaselli might go for the move here. Christopher Streppman seems to have had something go wrong in their field, but down the inside of Piratella is Zino Vandrisha. Oh, they're going to try to go too wide into Aqua Minerale. They seem to have sorted it out. I think, Jesse, it seemed like they needed a bit of a warm-up lap because it is all hell has broken loose here. We're still doing it.
Zino Vandrisha and Vaselli still going at it as we go into the chicane, the Variante Alta, and they've had to settle down and sort it out into single file because there's really no other way to get through that part of the racetrack, and the gap now appears. A moment of calm in the fight for 4th place. Zino Vandrisha will win it for the moment. Vaselli will certainly reload as we are 2 by 2, several rows deep. This is in the back of the hypercar pack, but we're 2 by 2. I think that's Schmidberger, Whiffle, Clay, and Rybecki, who are all together. They get it sorted out, exiting Ravazza, and that was close indeed. Meanwhile, Colombo, who may have overtaken for the lead off the racetrack, has just now set the quickest lap of the race. So they may have gained that position off the racetrack, but they've certainly got the speed to keep it. And I hate to say it, you hate to see a race settled by post-race stewarding or stewarding decisions, but I have a feeling that will certainly be looked at indeed. Asenpamper continues to reset quickest lap. That's the second time that they have reset it in the LMGT3 field. Everybody seems to be paired off Noah's Ark style, racing 2 by 2, and why not as soon as the floods have arrived?
Yeah, and huge shout out to Kevin Boss. He's up here fighting with Klaus Neiring for 3rd overall. He started in 8th position. Remember, I don't know. It's a Lamborghini buff. It's because it's plaid and because it's FAF. Here comes Klaus Neiring, though, down the inside. Variante Tamarello, Villeneuve. Is Neiring going to come through? He does just a bit, but on the brakes, maybe into Tosa, a bit of a swap, re-swap. But I think Kevin Boss, he might be happy losing that position there. Klaus Neiring is an unbelievable driver, and that Porsche is mighty fine in these wet conditions. Coming out of the corner, though, Huracan seems to have the straight line speed, and into Piratella, they're still going to be 1 by 1, but absolutely, Jesse, the 2 by 2 Noah's Ark style couldn't be more true. But it seems though we're starting to lose drivers like flies in terms of where they were and where they now are. Zino Vandrisha, we were just talking about him a moment ago, fighting in the top 5, is now down into 12th position. And there's a car parked off the side of the road in Ravazza 1. I'm not sure if that was a hypercar or an LMGT3. It is Rule. He's just, well, he's chilling. And I think, yeah. It's
I
not
think
anymore. He's
something went
retired.
wrong with that car, and in the process of trying to get it sorted out, I think that they've just decided to put it back into the garage. Shout out to Harry Conway, three-time Night Out champion, by the way, in the chat. He is cheering on a lot of drivers today. I dare say he's got all the names wrong. I think he may have had a stroke recently.
I think he has. We're beginning our charge of replays, and this is
no.
what happened to Milan van der Vecken out of Tosa. Callum
That
Kerrigan
was
just gave him that tiny, tiny tap. It was just like the most baby misjudgment. And here's Joe Dauber, JD Triple OG in the Corvette, losing it on the rear. Right behind Milan, there's a Porsche that lost it as well, but he's doing his best to get back under running. That is a bit of a poor start from the Corvette into Piratella. This is still lap one. Two cars are going to go around. It's Ryan Gill in the Mercedes, and that is who's in the 85 car. It's Matt Townsend, of course, in that Lexus. We're still going. Another Merc, another Lexus. Erschenberger's in the grass. He's trying to slow down the car, but it's wet grass. There's no way he's going to do it, but fortunately, because of that muddy gravel, keep him out of the wall.
Well, I think we figured out how Kevin Boss managed to go from 8th to 3rd in a lap and a half. That'll certainly do it. He was the only car that did not feature in any of those LMGT3 replays. It looks like a Mustang off in the background there. I didn't quite catch the number. Apparently that was Christoph Estrepa's Mustang that's gone off, and that was where Estrepa went off. We documented a moment ago that they had an incident, and that was it. Straight off of the racing circuit. Zeno Van Drisha, who was in 4th place, mind you, had a bit of an issue, and this is it. This is their first issue. Did they make it to the wall? You bet they did. Clouded the front of that BMW hypercar, and that's how they dropped like a stone through the field.
Yeah, it's really so difficult out here. Here's Ryan Gill again. Wondering if he had a little bit of an issue into Aqua Minerale. It's looking fine. It's looking fine. It's looking less fine on the exit. It's just a bit too much for those wet rear tires, but he gets underway again. Fortunately, he was up pretty high, but Ryan Gill now down to 12th in class. And here's Fabian Schmidberger, who's in pit lane for a very early stop. So I wonder if there was some kind of damage that was caused to the car, as Gerstenberger has apparently been disqualified from this race. That might be the first disqualification I've ever seen here on RCI. As we're going to get a replay of Fabian Schmidberger, or we're going to try our best to. There it is, and see, there's Kerrigan ahead. There's Smits behind, as well as Zeno. And oh wow! Oh, that's a
big one.
That is a big one, and I think that impact is going to be big. Rear suspension, maybe also front right suspension as well. This should be our last
two.
Yeah, our last replay for now. It's Smits. Oh, I thought it was going to be Smits into the back of Zeno, but it was Kerrigan who got into the back of. Fortunately, that car slowed down before rocketing across the racing line, Jesse. I think we can, I was going to say, I think we can almost take a breath, but we've got another car off into Villeneuve, but roundabout everybody sorted themselves, it seems, and I was going to say the chaos might slow down. It absolutely certainly won't, but it might maybe happen less frequently.
Vasily repassing the now lap down car, Fabian Schmidberger. Still one of my favorite liveries, the SJ&H cross nearly on pace car. Two halves of a whole. Very nice indeed. While all this chaos is ensuing, Colombo continues to drive away in the hypercar class, and Azimpamber continues to set quick lap after quick lap, and they've had to. Why? Because Martin Lawrence in the Connection Lost Mustang is keeping him honest. Every lap that Azimpamber does not set a new fastest lap of their class, Martin Lawrence closes in just a tiny bit. The gap is around 2 seconds, and it's been there despite the Lexus's best effort. Klaus Neiring in third. Kevin Boss still in fourth. Looking really good indeed. Wow. Close stuff. A lot of early incidents after the opening lap that was mostly clean. But after that, everything has taken off. The Good Smile car in the pit lane. Ryan Gill sitting there, and that will be a retirement for the Good Smile Mercedes. Oh, dear. Jack.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, I mean, what else can you say? So many retirements in the LMGT3 class anyway.
Yeah, we've lost a couple of cars. We have an answer as to why we lost Gerstenberger early on. Apparently, the early race penalty they had, whether it was a time penalty, whether it was a drive-through, is one that needed to be served within 3 laps. It was not served, therefore it was an instant disqualification. So super unfortunate. Already suffering a bit of technical issues coming into the race. Got them sort of just in time for it to go live, only for the banhammer to come down with its big, mighty swing and be our second GT Theory retirement. I have to say, I'm impressed that we have yet to lose a hypercar. I know now that I've said that, 5 of them will suddenly have to retire. I'm sorry. I have really poor self-control.
I cannot believe. And of course, Ted Edwards, our lovely broadcaster, immediately goes to a fight in the hypercar class. Zeno Vandrisha trying to drive up back through the field. Remember, they were as high as 4th place earlier on, and they had 2 consecutive incidents that dropped them right down the field, outside the top 10, now fighting with Volcher Rybecki to get back inside the top 10, and a slide there again through Ravazza for Vandrisha. Very sketchy stuff. And I hate to say I told you so, partner, but remember on the grid, you asked me what I expected? I'm pretty sure I described exactly this. A changing racetrack in chaotic conditions, and there's a local yellow here in Tamburello. There's a car off somewhere up here, and there
Oh, there's 2. Another one just went around.
There certainly is, and you could barely see it. If we can barely see it, you can imagine just how impossible it was for anyone else to react in time. But I suspect, Jack, you know who was involved in both those spins just now.
Yeah, so it was Fabian Schmidberger. That was a moment for Zeno, but it was Fabian Schmidberger who was off initially to the right, and then Dion Smits was the one who we saw spin in front of these 2. This is Zeno Vandrisha and Wojciech Rybecki, who's in the Porsche just ahead. I will say, I did do a tiny bit of driving on this circuit during the practice session, albeit in a GT3 car. The one thing that I was surprised by, and seeing the onboard as well, is just how usable all the curbs are in the wet. Usually one of the things is, it's wet, stay off the curbs. But it just doesn't seem to be the case here today, or at least on this circuit. And I know LMU weather's got a couple of shortcomings, but that seems like a bit of an oversight. But a run and a bit onto the grass does Zeno Vandrisha. They're going to be too wide going into Ravazza 1. It's going to be on the brakes. I think Zeno's going to have it, and he does just about, if they can both get it slowed down. A bit of I'd say a slow burner compared to what we've seen today. It took more than 1 corner for the move to be made, but very tidy, very well done. Zeno Vandrisha continues their charge up the field, and here's Dion Smits and Milan van der Vecken, another Flanders esports driver under pressure and or making moves. Actually, these are both Flanders esports drivers, I've just now remembered. But the fighting stays in the family. There are no papaya rules here. Everybody's going to race for everything. But Van der Vecken, another driver who didn't have the best start in the world, but Dion Smits as well, struggling just that last lap. Huge wiggles all the way around. It's amazing how they're able to keep these cars in mostly a straight line.
Folks, it looks simple, right? It doesn't look like much, the little twitches, but you go out here and you try this. I think Jack and I both know what it's like to try and catch one of these cars in these conditions in LMU, and it's not as academic as it looks. It is it's sort of wild. Makes you feel like a hero whenever not only do you catch it, you don't give up time to the car that you're either chasing or being chased by. But when it goes wrong, which you have seen several examples of this evening, it goes wrong in a hurry, and you feel absolutely helpless, as I believe that's Fabian Schmidberger again off. Oh, Schmitz has gone. Schmitz has gone off with him. I don't think they collided, but it certainly ended up in the same beach.
I wonder if there's a local gravity field that only affects Dion Smits whenever Fabian Schmidberger's around, because that's the second time in 2 laps that we've seen the replay. This is what caused Fabian Schmidberger to end up in the gravel at Aqua Minerale. It just seems that, well, it's starting to slide. I think it's a bit on the brakes, and he's sitting there. And just in a moment, we should see yet the Toyota already starting to go around. And
same thing, just a little further on the curb.
Yeah, it does seem that these two are very happy to be spinning around each other, even though they are not even on the same racing lap. But difficulty for the Cadillac driver, and it's nearly on speed juice, I believe, is the actual team name that is surrounding that car. I noticed that earlier.
Nearly on speed juice.
It's beautiful. It's incredible from Fabs. Good name, gorgeous livery, tricky race.
In my experience, you can't nearly be on speed juice. You're either on it or you're not on it. I can guarantee you that. Something of an expert. He does have a Barbie sticker on that car as well, and that is a old Fabian Schmidberger reference from right around COVID time. That might even predate COVID. I've just realized that was a Ryan Gill, Fabian Schmidberger, and me joke that only the 3 of us, I think, understand. But still nice to have it on the car. We call him the Barbie Girl simply because he sung Barbie Girl all the time, and this has gone wrong. Several cars have gone off. They didn't make it through the Variante Alta. You could see that coming. Multiple classes mixing here, and something had to give, and it was Billy Octane, unfortunately.
I think Joe Dauber was also in that incident. We saw that the police car Corvette go around as well. Here's Octane coming in. Everything's looking good.
Was it a pit maneuver? It was.
Really up onto the curb, and it's just.
Was he cleared to pit?
Yeah, sir, stop resisting. Stop resisting. As Billy Octane.
I don't know. He couldn't do that. Here's the thing about that. He shouldn't have done that. He doesn't have a push bar on that police car.
Yeah, that was very tricky. I think Billy definitely. Oh, I think there's some flashes of fury behind Joe Dauber. I think Billy is going to make Joe feel a little bit nervous here and be like, what if I gave you a little push? I'm almost certain. Actually, he is giving him a push. I think he gave him a little bit of a bump draft out of the corner. Did Billy Octane. Some flashes back from Dauber. These two, of course, both respected racing drivers, both drivers sharing circuits with each other for many years. But at the end of the day, heated moment a bit like that, you gotta give it some. Callum Kerrigan doing reasonably well in his Porsche given his own expectations. He thought he was going to be nowhere, but he's firmly in the mid-pack, just having recently been overtaken by Zeno Van Drisha. Now he's got the anime-clad Porsche behind him. The pink Porsche versus the anime Porsche. Jesse, who's your money on?
Well, I'm gonna go with the pink Porsche simply because I dig that particular livery. But I will tell you what I have noticed. I was doing the maths, as you might expect. Colombo still leads. That gap was nearly 5 seconds, as I've just saw several sectors light up in yellow, but they've extinguished, luckily. But as I was saying, Colombo continues to lead. Gakomi continues to catch. That gap was several seconds more than it is now. It is a live relative, so it is kind of hard to track, but it's somewhere in the 1.5 section, and that is something we'll certainly keep an eye on as we go forward. I mentioned earlier as well, Asenpamber was being caught by Martin Lawrence every lap that Asenpamber was not resetting quick lap. That continues to be the case. That 2-second gap is now down to 1.5 seconds as well, give or take, based on where they are on the racetrack. And I mean, you can see right there, the best lap, not so important, but the last lap it's a 57.9 for your leader, Asenpamber, in LMGT3, and it was a 57.2 for Martin Lawrence. And he's been doing that, Jack, for the past 5 or so laps, and certainly closing in here on the LMGT3. But the same thing is happening in Hypercar, almost a mirror image.
Yeah, and ladies and gentlemen, in case you didn't know him already, this is Martin Lawrence, better known here at RCI as Czech Jesus, exhibiting the way he got that nickname, which is his ability to simply walk on water in a race car in the wet. Most famous for driving the Bentley in ACC, the Boat League, as it would be known in the wet. And I will admit, I feel like the Mustang is almost a... Yes, they are entirely different manufacturers. Yes, they're kind of different cars. I feel like it's a similar vibe. Martin Lawrence, of course, switched to this car after last season, but Lawrence is getting closer every single lap. Jesse, I think it's a fight that is waiting to happen. I think the same thing might also be occurring in the overall lead of the race. They basically matched each other that last lap, but Colombo at the overall lead in the hypercar class being caught by Giacomi. So things are going to heat up for the lead any moment now. The incredible thing, Mr. Lee, is we're 22 minutes into this race. We still have just about an hour of this left to go.
Yeah, I think for a lot of drivers, they're going to be exhaling. If they haven't had an issue thus far, they're going to be like, okay, I kind of know where I'm at and I can formulate my strategy. If you've had an incident thus far, you're sort of in recovery mode. We're talking about the Billy Octanes, the Callum Kerrigans. If you are the opposite side of that, you're trying to manage. If you're the leaders in both classes, you're hoping that the driver chasing you, whether that be Giacomi or Martin Lawrence, they get halted just a little bit as they are both closing in. But it's been a good race for Kevin Boss. Christoph Strepa has had another incident. I saw the car sideways, and there it is. One Ford Mustang doing absolute bits, the other one almost in bits, and that's going to be it. Another DNF in the LMGT3 category. Jack, take us through it.
Yeah, it's I think just one incident too many. It's something where he's taking too much curb on the exit, giving it a bit of a drift, and that's actually a big hit into that wall. I was going to say maybe he just got frustrated, but no, that is a heck of a lot of damage. We'll see it one more time from the onboard. You can see the apex curve there. He hits it, he comes off of it, the car's already unsettled going around, and bang, a bit of Beyblade action. So I think Christoph didn't want to limp that back. It's been a tricky race, but you can see he puts it in reverse. He maybe starts going, and then I think he realizes, yeah, that's a lot of damage. Here's Marco Badowski. He was in 5th place just a moment ago. The other half of the Peugeot clan, and that's a bit of a scary place to end up. Well reacted by, I think that was Clegg in the BMW coming through, but Badowski underway, not losing too much time, losing a position, but it could always be worse. We see cars dropping like flies. I think that was Jacob Tucky that briefly disappeared there. Not sure, but stand by, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not sure what's real at the moment. Jesse, thoughts? Are they casting spells? I think they might be casting spells, but I'm not sure what bit of that was legitimate, if there was even a bit of contact between them. But we have lost Matt Townsend as well. We're now down to 9 GT3 cars remaining. And it's getting to a point where for those that remain, I mean, you're thinking about points in a championship after all. And Jacob Tucky struggling just a little bit. But for the likes of Jacob Tucky, a driver who, let's be honest, has been struggling, is in good position right now because of the number of cars that have disappeared around him. He's in 8th position. So if he sticks this one out, Jesse, as a lot of these drivers can, they'd be on for some big points just for survival.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is you want to persevere. I think a lot of these retirements are due to mechanical issues. I don't think they're voluntarily parking the cars, and sometimes it's hard for us on the screen to tell exactly what's gone wrong with the car. Of course, it's quite obvious to us in the booth whenever they're missing a wheel or a wing, et cetera, and so forth. But a lot of times the damage is sort of more internal when they hit the wall and the cars are not drivable or there's some other issue. So we've had a lot of DNFs, but I suspect they're all due to quite severe damage indeed that has taken them out of the race. Now, this is interesting because we're getting into that point of the race where we start to talk about the pit strategy, and you'll notice nobody's taken their stop except Fabian Schmidberger, who has had several off-track excursions today. And of course, I would expect in this weather condition, Galbraith goes off the track there and completely cuts the chicane. I want to talk about that too. But the energy here, I suspect what they're going to do is they're going to go as long as humanly possible because there's no other reason. There's no reason not to. You're not going to take tires, so it doesn't really matter. You're going to go to as long as you possibly can. I think if there is a secondary strategy, I am not fully aware of it. I've just been told, Jack, that is not a track cut penalty. What Calbray just did in the chicane, apparently.
It isn't. The interesting thing is the way that the track limit system works in LMU. It's fairly forgiving. For those of you who don't know, unlike in a lot of other sims, if you go off and gain time by going off, it will sort of give you a little pop-up on your screen, and it'll sort of give you a color representation. It's like, yellow, you barely cut; orange, severely red. Okay, you need to slow down right now, or we're going to disqualify you from this race. And when the rain comes down, what is considered a gaining time, I don't know what happens to it, but it's effectively like track limits are switched off. You can sort of use that to your advantage, but cutting corners like that in the wet is just as sketchy, I think, or if not more sketchy than driving it normally. It's just something that they're incredibly relaxed once the time and once the circuit gets wet. That what we just saw from Thomas Calveri, I know from personal experience because I did it about 25 minutes ago in a GT3 car. Not illegal. You can pretty much go as wide as you want on the entry in, cutting the corner again. I mean, this, Jesse, ultimately, this is racing. This is what it's about. You're going to go as fast as you can within the rules. And if you're allowed to cut corners, well, you can cut corners. Go for it.
Yeah, my apologies to Calvert, by the way. I've been mispronouncing their name, and I've only just realized my error. So apologies. That is very interesting. I wasn't aware that in every other sim, that would be a considerable penalty. That would be almost as bad as cutting a corner, certainly a slowdown in most sims at the very least. I did notice several of the drivers taking that option, and I was wondering if maybe we were encroaching or approaching some sort of issue. Certainly not, though, based on the rules of the series. Callum Kerrigan, Vulture Rybecki fighting it out for 8th place. Kerrigan has it. Rybecki wants it. And you talk about just about 10 minutes ago, Rybecki was in 10th place, looking like they were going to go down to 11th position with the spins, with the drama. They've been promoted up a couple of spots out. Well, they're looking to get another one, rather, here in 8th place. Callum Kerrigan holding just enough to stay out of trouble until they run through the Tamburello. Easy pickings for Vulture Rybecki there. Who runs off the racetrack. I've got to stop talking. Every time I talk about somebody, they run off the racetrack. At what point do we blame the driver and not the commentator?
Always, maybe, possibly. That's never going to happen. But no, I was about to say, I feel like neither of us should open our mouths and this should just become a silent race where all you do is hear the race cars.
I'm sure the lovely people at home would love for us to shut up so they can hear the race cars more. Asenpamper, by the way, has got the lead out just a little bit. That Lexus now gapping Martin Lawrence again. We saw several laps ago, Asenpamper started resetting quick lap again and again, and they've just done it again. And what's that done? Well, that gap, that was 1.5 seconds back to the forward of Martin Lawrence. is now 2.5. Now it's up to 2.7 seconds the gap as Azenpamper just reset quick lap in their category on this previous lap. You can see there a 56.151 to a 56.447, and that's been consistent the last several laps. Whereas prior, the gap was coming down in the other direction. Oh my word! They're going blow for blow here in the middle part of this race. Going back to the pit strategy, though, Jack, I can't think of any other strat for this race. Normally, there's an alternate strategy that you might try, but I think everything but going as long as as possible. I think it loses you time. I don't see anything as viable other than going long.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's like, oh, maybe you take tires or don't take tires. There's absolutely no reason for anybody to put on a new set of wets. They will last. They will be fine. They will not be any quicker if you get fresh ones on board. But I think there is just go as long as you can. I guess the alternate strat would be to go longer in terms of maybe saving a bit of fuel. And I'm wondering if Martin Lorick is maybe backing off a bit and saving a bit of fuel. He had about 2.5–3% extra. That is bordering on an extra lap, which will be gained time come the pit stops. The top three overall in hypercar are starting to compress just a little bit as Mohamed Colombo, who's been comfortable out in front, it's sort of showing that maybe he's not so comfortable. In those last three lap times for the top three, Colombo was the slowest by almost a second to Eduardo Giacomi just behind. So it's happening. It's coming. It's been a bit of a slow burn. It's been blow for blow on trading lap time through the first just about half of this race. But since we're nowhere near the pit stops, I would say, oh, maybe there'll be a change of position in pit stops. But no, I think it's going to be at least another 25, maybe 30 minutes till these hypercars end up down pit road. So this is going to be something, Jesse, that is going to need to be sorted on circuit. The question is there going to be a looming penalty for Mohamed? I mean, that race start was a little on the edge. I know that we just talked about how, track limits kind of don't exist on the racetrack when it's wet, but it's a bit of a different thing when you are leaving the circuit and gaining an advantage. But I wonder if that's something that might be in the back of their mind, or if wow, that was a big slide, or if it's going to be something that hopefully will get sorted on circuit. Because as you said, it is no fun when it's a post-race penalty that sorts out a race result.
Azenpamper has now, in the time span that you were monologuing, has set fast lap twice again in that time span. That is absolutely incredible. Now 3 seconds plus the gap. First to second in LMGT3. It has gone the opposite direction in the hypercar class. Colombo continues to struggle. We saw that up in the Variante Alta the last time through. That little mistake that Colombo made at the time was worth 2 whole tenths of a second by the time they got down into Ravazza. And yeah, he's not been able to gain any of that back. We ride on board Giacomi, who is now chasing down the leader, Colombo. Here's the thing too, let's say there is post-race stewarding involved and Colombo is deemed to have overtaken illegally, right? Do we necessarily care? Of course, we're not stewards, right? We're broadcasters. The reason that we can talk and it doesn't make sense, and the stewards actually are the smart ones in the room. But if Giacomi gets by him, does that actually matter anymore?
Oh, that's actually a really good point. And I'm, as you said, not the smartest one in the room, probably the dumbest by a fair margin. So I don't remember any precedent for that in real life racing or otherwise. I think the penalty would probably still stand, if I would imagine. I mean, I don't know of a give back rule in RCI. I can't say I've read the rule book.
There is one.
There is one. Okay.
Yeah, so basically, Pamber again, that is a third consecutive lap, resetting quick lap in their class. Martin Lawrence, I think, may have driven the wheel out of his tires just a little bit, and here we go. Calberry was the quickest car in the hypercar class up until this last lap, and now it is Giacomi who is running down Colombo. We're talking about potential penalty anyway for overtaking off track for Colombo, and there's something in the rule book about that. I was there when it was written. It's something to the effect of you have a certain amount of time to give it back, to give up the time gain, to give up the position gain, to rectify it in a live stewarding situation. We've certainly gone past that. We're 30, 40 minutes into the race now. That wouldn't be in play. I was just more curious if there would be, if there was a potential leniency if it naturally plays out the way that it otherwise would do. But this is interesting here. We've got LMGT3 traffic in the middle, and that's Martin Lawrence right there. That's not one of the back markers in LMGT3 they had to navigate. That has given some time back to Colombo just based on catching them in Aqua Minerale off of the racetrack a little bit. That will remove all of that time, and here we go.
I was going to say, I think that might open up an opportunity here. They're going to be too wide down into Ravazza 1. I think Giacomi's going to hold on to it, but Colombo trying to stay in the mirrors and forcing a bit of an error for Giacomi there. So pass, repass almost immediately. I go off the racetrack one corner. You go off the racetrack in the next one. Thomas Calberry, I'm sure, noticing all of that and saying, I should maybe close up to these two. We haven't really talked about the multi-class element at all, Jesse. There's been so much to talk about just with the rain that we haven't even really mentioned the fact that, hey, there's two very differently paced classes sharing this racetrack, all trying to work their way around each other. And it does seem that Mohamed Colombo might be doing the better of the pair, maybe doing a bit better. I think the circuit might be starting to dry out just a bit. The times are starting to tumble for a lot of these cars. Everybody going quicker. Yuta and Clegg doing a 1 minute 44.7 that last lap, the fastest lap of the race. And I think perhaps it's starting to dry out, though the rain hasn't slowed down at all. I think it's actually picked up by just a moment, but we see it's the Cadillac and Billy Octane side by side with the Porsche of Callum Kerrigan. It's actually a three-way fight. Billy Octane very deep on the brakes. He's going to say, I'm going to keep my foot in. I'm not giving up this position, but I think there's nothing he can do, as it's going to be, Jesse, that's very much what we just saw, or what we saw a few laps ago with Rybecki getting past Kerrigan. Very similar circumstance, not having to really work for it in turns 2 and 3, and we'll see what that looks like. There's actually Billy getting around out of Ravazza 2. Cadillac just having the legs in the straight line, but as we're going to come up to the braking zone in turn 2, it's just, it's late on the brakes, and it's just not slowing down. He realizes he's going to miss it. He says, put the foot down. We're trying to keep it up, but gravel is not as quick as tarmac, ladies and gentlemen. But I don't think the fight's going to slow down. A bit of multi-class traffic into Aqua Minerale. It's going to slow up Octane massively. Jesse, did you know that multi-class giveth and multi-class taketh away? Because it's finally happening.
There's several universal truths, one of which is taxes. The other one is multi-class giveth and multi-class taketh away. I think what we're seeing with a lot of these offs now are cars that are having to venture off the line. I think the track is getting a little bit more run in. I wouldn't call it drier by any stretch, but perhaps a little bit more run in. Maybe the drivers are just getting a little more confident than they had been at some point. We saw Clay, of course, reset quick lap in hypercar, a very, very fast lap. Pamber has been doing their job, doing the very same job in LMGT3. And I agree with you, partner. It's not so much that the track is improving. I think the driving is improving as, of course, multi-class traffic is absolutely playing a factor here. Kevin Boss, who's in the GT car, can't get out of the way quick enough, wasn't in a position to move over, couldn't do it safely. And then, of course, the hypercars stack up behind them, but no harm, no foul. Billy Octane unable to convert the pass. Had a look to the inside, a sniff, if you will, but didn't quite have a full lane to pull it off. So they will continue to lap around in 9th and 10th. Kerrigan and Octane in that order. 44.8 for your leader in the hypercar class, 44.83 to a 44.88. The top two. That gap has stabilized now, Colombo to Gakomi.
Yeah, and now we're back to a bit of LMGT3 action. There's less of them on the circuit. We're sort of seeing less of them in their own fight, but this is Dauber trying to make his way back up into the top 5. It's Jan van Parijs in the Aston Martin ahead, another of the many Flanders esports drivers that we have in this season.
We've got to come up with a name for their contingent.
Ooh, yeah. I don't know what it would be.
The Flanders following. I don't know. That's just my, that's just me spitballing. But we've got to come up with a name for them. Right now, they're trying to come up with a position, and I believe the Rosers are going to have them here around the outside, and in fact, they do.
Crikey, it's the Dauber Rosers. It's Joe Dauber
Oh, no.
making it around the outside of Ravazza. That's not one you see
to
every
watch
day.
this broadcast. I would like to apologize on behalf of everyone.
we have fun here. No, it's been a bit of a chaotic one on circuit. It's been a bit of a chaotic one in the booth. We got two. Oh, it's Van der Vecken around. I was just about to say it's a fight between Smits and Van der Vecken. He actually nails the 360 and gets back going again reasonably quickly. I'm wondering if Dion Smits actually maybe slowed up a bit because they were right on the tail of those two GT3s, and now they're behind them. Colombo's just put in another fast lap. There's a potential overtake here that we just missed. This is coming out of... Oh, it's touched. That's why he slowed down. Smits knew. You can see he's immediately slowing down, showing a bit of respect, saying, hey, that one is on me. I think I touched you a bit there. Spun you around just a skosh, just a bit. But I wonder if he's going to give up the position entirely or just give up the gap so they can return to their fight. I think they've done that.
Smits didn't
Fastest
need to
laps,
do
Jesse, are
Yeah.
coming in like it's going out of style.
Yeah, a lap ago, Colombo set a 44.2, the quickest hypercar lap. Aspen Pamper continues to do what Aspen Pamper continues to do. But going back to the Smits-Voken incident, Smits didn't mean to do that. You could clearly see that he was offset, was Smits. And what happened was the front sort of wheel hump area, technical term, of Smits' car. Ooh, a little bump right there as they get stacked up by the LMGT3 cars. But no, it was just it lifted the back wing of Voken's car off of the ground is what happened. Just complete accident.
That was really close to getting going really bad. 3 wide coming through turn 1. Joe Dauber getting involved between the two, but we're not done at all. Around the outside is Milan van der Vecken into, oh my goodness.
We're still not done.
They're still going to keep going door to door, but I think in the field there, I didn't hear no bell. Here comes Dion Smits. I think he's held it into Villeneuve. It's a huge slide. These two, I got to say, really glad that Smits gave up the time after the incident, because that would have robbed us of that moment right there. That might have been just about the most exciting thing we've seen all night, and this has been a race filled with excitement. That was extremely excellent.
I'm going to say the most confident thing I've said all night. I couldn't have caught that. There is no way under this sun that I would have caught that car, a hypercar in the wet, going that quick sideways. I wouldn't have caught that. Bravo.
That's unbelievable driving from honestly everybody in this race who showed up and started incredible driving from them all, even the ones that have retired, because just to brave this weather for a couple of laps is far better than I could have ever hoped for. Zeno Vandrisha, he's continued his charge back up the field, but now he's the one being charged upon. He just got through on Marco Badowski a few moments ago. Badowski, also not hearing no bell, is saying, I'm going to try to come back. The Peugeots, though, seeming to go pretty well in the wet. Of course, there's Kalberg in the other one, and he is also right up on the back of Eduardo Di Giacomi. So we're looking for some changes here. I'm so impressed. There's almost been more wheel-to-wheel, more single dueling fights than we've seen in the dry regularly. It's just been absolutely stellar tonight as we're anticipating GT3s to come down pit lane for their one and only stop, maybe the next 10 or so minutes, Jesse. And looking at the energy, looking at everybody's VE, I see a couple of standouts. Anything maybe top 2 in GT3 that looks interesting?
Yeah, I think you're right, is what I'm looking at. You mentioned that maybe Martin Lawrence was saving a little bit more energy as compared to Asenpamper, and you're right. That is correct. That theory wasn't a theory. It was just a fact.
So you're saying I was right about something?
Absolutely. Mark it down.
Can you tell my
take that?
Can you tell my parents
Dad.
that?
Yeah, I'm doing the thing.
Let's
buddy,
go.
I got you. Listen, you ain't even got to tell me. I'll tell them. I'll tell them. Your son was right about something finally.
Yes. Finally is the key word. But no, Martin Lawrence maybe playing the long game, playing the strategy a bit more. Maybe thinking, I don't think I can hang with this guy's out and out pace, so I'm going to out strategy him. Fuel saving, after all, in Le Mans Ultimate is absolutely huge, though the gap has stretched to almost 7 seconds at this point. And I'm wondering, even an extra lap of fuel, maybe if it's an extra 2 laps, I don't think it's quite that, but it's on the bubble. We'll see what it's worth in the pit lane, but it might not be 7 seconds. I do think coming out of pit lane, it's going to be super close.
It's going to be,
though,
and
super close as well.
Yeah, it's going to be a couple of seconds, but I agree with you, partner. It's not going to be 7 seconds worth of difference. And we're seeing the same thing we saw last week in the hypercar class. Almost everyone, their virtual energy is almost identical. I feel like that almost never happened in the early days of LMU, but here we are many patches later, and a lot of those gaps in the hypercar class have been filled up. Nearly everybody on the same pace there. Clay just took quick lap again. They've had the quick lap several times. They've been fighting it out with Calber and Colombo most of the race for who has the quickest lap. You'd have to wonder, if Clay wouldn't have had their early dramas, where would they be right here at this point?
It is, yeah. It's always, it's races like this that are super tricky, ever-changing conditions. It always ends up, for somebody, it becomes a race of what if. You know, what if I didn't stack it into a wall? What if I didn't, have my wiggle that turned into a spin? Every race, I think, is like that. And all good drivers, even when they're winning races, they're like, I wish I did this better. I wish I didn't make this mistake. Even though they were the categorically best car on the circuit. They won the race, after all. Everybody's always looking to improve. Everybody's always looking to find their better way. I think Milan van der Vecken and Dion Smits, their fight has maybe had a moment. Here's Martin Vaselli, a bit of a yellow flag.
Too much?
Ooh, too much. The gravel just grabbed that Genesis and barely keeping it out of the wall. That was very close for Martin. A very, very tricky day for them. Here's the replay of Smits getting through on Van der Vecken on the brakes into Ravazza 1, keeps the nose in. Is it a bit of a copy of what we've seen earlier on? Not quite, because both stay on the track. More door-to-door between them. But it's Van der Vecken into the gravel. I think we're going to get another replay, Jesse. These two aren't going to stop. They don't want to stop, and I don't think I want them to either.
Well, they've gotten into each other a couple of times, and as a driver in a high pressure situation like this, you start to ruffle your feathers ever so slightly, and you wonder, is patience going to run out before the timer does? Oh my goodness. And as if on cue, heavy contact through Villeneuve, and it came to blows on the third time asking right there.
I wonder. I have a theory. I'm wondering if they are in the same voice call right now and just having a chat
Oh
with
my
each other.
goodness.
He's around. My question is, will Dion Smith slow down again? He was not involved in that incident, but I wonder, to a certain extent, are they having too much fun that he wants the fun to continue? I think Smith is going to carry on and say, okay, I can take a break now, because band for band, bar for bar, these two have been going at it for the last 15 to 20 minutes. They probably traded places several tens of times almost, but a great show to give us and give all of our viewers. The fight at the front still pretty stable. I mean, there's just such a small gap between them. That last lap, Colombo being the quickest of the bunch, but it's only half a second between them on lap time and only 0.8, well, 1.5 seconds from first to third. It's the closest they've been. Upton Clay yet again going quicker. I think that's the first 1 minute 43 we've seen all day. I think it's just everybody's getting a bit more comfortable track, maybe getting a slight bit quicker.
Yeah, you can see the track. It again, not dry, but the sheen on the racetrack is sort of gone in a lot of places, and you can see sort of more of a matte finish on the asphalt as per usual. It's again not dry. You can see the rooster tails on the cars is self-evident of that. But speaking of the rooster tails, they are smaller in some instances than they previously were. This move, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, that's called the ultra defensive use the pit wall as another car maneuver. That's a favorite of mine as well. They can't pass you down the inside if there is no inside.
Oh, it's a touch on the back. Rybecki had just a tiny misjudgment in the background, spinning wildly. He was flashing his lights coming out of the final corner. I think maybe a bit upset. There was a tiny bit of door-to-door contact with the overtake, but that car is extremely broken. Thomas Kalberg also going slowly coming out of Ravazza too. He was in the fight for the lead of the race, but now he's well down. We'll see what happened to Rybecki. He was just coming out of the corner. I noticed in the mirror that he had a really good run, but Billy was just, well, he was there. He touches into the rear of the Cadillac, and that's a lot of RPMs.
Just misjudged
SPMs,
it.
Spins per minute. I'm surprised it didn't take off. I feel like that's roughly the speed of a helicopter wing. Or helicopter rotor, rather. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, contact there. Do they keep it on the wall? They do. And Kevin loses it. Calbera. Oh, my goodness.
Oh.
And this is one of those times, Jack. The track is going through that transition. We see it getting faster. We're seeing quicker times nearly every lap. You can literally see the track is not as shiny as it was, which generally will mean more grip. Of course, the tires are worn, but the grip is not where you left it. Every lap it's different. Rybecki, by the way, this is the same incident as before. They're trying to limp that car around, and in the fashion they're doing that is they're trying to stay off of the racing surface as they're doing it. You know, Porsche do have rally cars, but this ain't one of them.
Yeah, it's not a lawnmower either, but Rybecki's making their way back. They are going to have to come across the circuit. They probably know they're on an empty bit of track, but they're going to come down pit lane. That car is
I respect the hustle.
So dangerous. I so do as well. Yeah, it's being extremely safe, being extremely smart about it. It seems Roonans and Pamber has finally run out of fuel. This is the first fuel stop we've seen all race for the LMGT3 fields. Thomas Kalberg, I think, spurred on by his spin, and I just feel for the guy. He was fighting to get a position, maybe two. He finally takes a step forward into second position and just loses it all but on his own. I think coming off of that, he's going a heck of a lot quicker than he was. And this is our former race leader in LMGT3 coming back onto the circuit. I imagine it will stay that way once all the pit stops start to begin, but it's finally time. These cars have been going for almost an hour here at Imola, but everybody just about is in. I think Jesse, it really only looked like that Martin Lawrence had the wherewithal and the extra fuel to go an extra lap or two. Bit of a drift out of pit lane, as that bit of track has not been driven on, so it is just completely soaked. No tire changes though, it seems, but everybody feeding in an LMGT3. Hypercars, I'd say another 6 or 7 minutes for them, another handful of laps. They should be in soon, and a bit more scramble is going to happen in our race.
Yeah, too much time lost. No real reason to change tires in this race. So everyone coming in to refill their virtual energy, at least enough to get to the checkered flag here at Imola today. And normally I would say strategically everyone was following the leader, which they were, but it wasn't so much strategic as it was a limitation of their virtual energy. And Martin able to do an extra lap. They'll bring the Ford in and surrender the lead of the race, presumably, but they will also have ever so slightly shorter pit stop here in comparison, but it's not going to be the 8 or so seconds they were down, we believe. Martin ready to go, and he is down and gone. Here comes Azimpamber thundering down the pit straight. I don't think this is going to be particularly close. I don't think that's Martin Lawrence exiting the pit lane, and it's not. Azimpamber retakes the lead. Martin Lawrence is released from the pit lane. Stop's done. Everything's good there, but not quite everything Martin needed. May have even, Jack, lost time by going an extra lap.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Plan not quite coming together for Martin Lawrence. He's still got the quickest lap of the race. He's still got 22 minutes to make his way forward. Martin Vaselli is going to be the first hypercar in and then out of the long Imola pit lane. It is longer than it looks. It's longer than it feels, but it's not somewhere you want to have to take an extra stop in. That is absolutely for sure, as it seems that Jan van Parijs is taking a bit of an alternate route there on the run down towards the final two corners. They're still running in seventh. It does seem that that the LMGT3 field has stabilized-ish. I do think, though, we're soon to see a dauber on the back of a boss very soon, because he's putting in quick laps, that Corvette. So it's going to be the cops versus the plaid Lamborghini soon. And I'm curious if Eduardo Di Giacomi is going to have an extra lap of fuel. It looks like they're on the bubble, so maybe a swap in pit lane for the lead coming up. I do think, Jesse, Kalberg has some more pace in the tank. That gap was, I think, 9 or 10 seconds, and it's already down to 6. So I'm wondering a late race surge, perhaps, from the Flanders-driven Peugeot might be coming soon. He's in this lap for sure, but I don't know. I wouldn't root against the guy.
No, absolutely not. I mean, any advantage that you could potentially have over somebody else is, again, a potential tool in your toolbox that you could deploy. So one lap, it doesn't sound like a lot, but if you can find a way to work that to your advantage, you absolutely have to do that.
It's all about working with what you got, finding advantages where you can. Racing is all about the fine margins. And we'll see as Kalberg is going to come down pit lane. Our race leader as well, Mohamed Colombo, has come down as well. Thomas Kalberg is going to come in 0% virtual energy. Is actually a 0.4. That is perfectly executed in my mind. In a stint, if I have more than 1% of fuel, I'm upset. I'm disappointed. It means I didn't do it right. But Kalberg doing it very, very well. And we'll see if the Ferrari will hold the lead once Giocomi comes down. Upton Clay also not down pit lane. Most of the hypercar field actually still has a bit to go. And we'll see what it looks like for Kevin Boss with the ever looming Joe Dauber, though that's not looming anymore. That's actively alongside. This is almost a carbon copy of what we saw in qualifying. Them two trying to trade positions in Varianti Villeneuve, but Kevin doing such an incredible job being up at third place at the start of this race. But I mean, not to say in a mean way, but he just doesn't have the pace of these front running guys, and for him to hold position this long has been absolutely incredible. And I do think Joe Dauber is going to get by. I don't think it's going to be done fairly easy, but I still think that Kevin's going to be happy with a fifth place finish at the very least. But fortunately, Jesse, no further retirements in the last little bit of racing. We're still at 23 out of the 28 we started with, and I'm still going to keep saying it because I trust my boys in them hypercars. No retirements in the hypercar field. 3 Lamborghinis in one shot. I am a happy, happy boy.
Interesting situation here. You have P7 and 8, I believe it is, in front. It's actually 8 and 9 in front of positions 4 and 5. I saw, and you see them right there. Oh, and now we have a hypercar threading their way through. No harm, no foul. So you have this situation where you have some of the back runners in LMGT3 racing and some of the mid-pack coming through to lap them fighting as well. And this could get very dicey indeed. In fact, one of the lap down cars comes back onto the racetrack. This is going to be all over the place, nearly 3 wide on the run up to Villeneuve. And that absolutely benefited Kevin Boss, who was able to thread their way through that a little bit more elegantly. Joe Dauber had to sort of pick their way around the mobile chicane. And for the moment, that benefits the Dutchman.
Yeah, it's, a right place, right time, very well driven. Of course, those 2 cars that are on your screen now, they're fighting for the Wooden Spoon Award of the night. They're fighting for last on track. It's the 2 dueling Lamborghinis of Finn Feyerts and Jakob Tucky, and neither of them showing any signs of backing off, slowing down. Tucky trying to find his way around as they're on the run down towards Acqua Minerale. And both of them, I would say, having the time of their lives, playing like it's a water park. That's coming out of the corner. I think Tucky's going to have a run here. It absolutely is. He's got to run a bit of door-to-door into the brakes for Varianti Alta. It looks like Tucky's going to have to take it all to the line. He's going to have to slow down.
That is a track cut, right? That's got to be.
Yes.
That's a little too much.
Absolutely. I think he's slowed down pretty considerably. He lifted off when he came back onto the circuit, but he didn't give up enough time to give back the position. Actually, excuse me, he did give up enough time to give back the position. So I've only just realized the side of that car is plastered with the absolute cinema image, which I could describe this. Yeah, he's there. We got Scorsese versus Metallica on a racetrack in the wet in northern Italy. The sentence that possibly has never been said.
Yeah, you are the first human being to ever utter what you just said. That is absolutely incredible. I agree with what the car says. This race has been absolute cinema. It's been drama, and Kalberg continues to lower the time. It wasn't that long ago a low 45 was the mark to beat. It's a 42 as the track continues to improve here at Imola in the dying embers. 15 minutes left to go. Colombo leads Giocomi by 1.8 seconds, give or take. But the question will remain in post-race stewarding, Will that be looked at? Colombo did gain that position off track, we believe, on lap number 1. Jacomi has not been able to fully recover and get back by them, though they have been up to the rear bumper of the Ferrari on several occasions, but now find themselves nearly 2 seconds adrift. Calabera continues to pound around in third place. They've had a more quiet race, if you want to call it anything. Clay in fourth place and Zeno Van Drisha round out your top 5 in the hypercar class. And of course, in LMGT3, the class that's had nearly half the field retire on incidents today. Azam Pamber has led the entire way except the 1 lap during the pit stop cycle. That, of course, was given up to Martin Lawrence, who's still 8 seconds back, though that gap seems to have stabilized in the post-pit stop. Klaus Nyring, Kevin Boss, Joe Dauber, and Hearn. The cars I see, Alt Van Paris, Ferretz, and Tucky, the 9 cars that are still running in that class. We started with around 15 down to 9 attrition. I didn't expect that. I expected, Jack, the attrition to be in the hypercar class, but it's been the other way around.
Yeah, I'm super impressed by all the hypercars, all the drivers, of course. But no, I figured, if anything, it might be more cars in general, but certainly more in the hypercar field. They're certainly the trickier of the pair to drive, requires a much different driving style. Of course, on the brakes is super sketchy. Rune Anzenpamber, I think, is going to put down another fastest lap of 53.5. We're pulling up. You know a car's going fast on track when Ted pulls up the qualifying lower thirds format to show just how quickly they're going sector over sector. Martin Vaselli having a moment into turn 2 looks good, but I think maybe taking too much curb. Oh, the midpoint, he's almost got it held, but not quite, and just a biff into the wall, but I don't think that's too much damage. Martin Vaselli is down in 6th position and is actually immediately under threat from Billy Octane, who is, I believe, just behind. Or excuse me, no, that's Marco Badowski that's just ahead as a result of that incident. He's running in 6th for majority of this race, and it looks like he's going to finish this race off with a bit of broken steering, as if it wasn't already difficult enough just to drive around here. But you can see there's that chunky, I'd say that's about an 8% or an 8 degree, excuse me, droop on the right side, and that's something that's super uncomfortable to drive with, because it's not, ultimately steering damage doesn't equate to lack of drivability, but when you're used to holding a wheel straight and you're used to turning it a certain amount into corners, it becomes muscle memory. All of that memory has just now been reset, and it makes things a bit trickier. That's just an end of it. And Jesse, I have to say, speaking of drivers doing incredible things and driving incredibly well, I think, and I wonder, that perhaps some drivers in this race could do with possibly a properly better set up car. And I wonder what sort of location maybe you could find a setup exactly for a race like this.
Well, if you were racing in a completely wet Imola race here in LMU, Coach Dave has you covered. Coach Dave Academy setups over at Coach Dave Delta. And they have setups, of course, for iRacing, LMU, ACC, whatever you need, whatever the condition, whatever the class, they have you covered. And while you're there, you can get yourself some driver coaching. Maybe you're not as quick in the wet as you wish you were. Coach Dave Delta has you covered.
It's one of the many wonderful partners that support us here at RCI. It's not just CDA, it's also our Ready Set Sim, or Sim Rig building partner, because if you're looking for an upgrade to your gear, if you're looking for a brand new out of the box setup, they are the place to go using their RSS Rig builder. things couldn't be easier. Whether you can afford it, whether you can, they have you covered. And of course, in the deep, well-honored tradition of when Jack starts talking about partners, racing starts happening. So keep that in the back of your mind. There is a motor race going on. They're going to do
It's the
wheel to wheel.
50, as
It's,
Harry Conway would say. 3-time knockout
it's the
champion, by the
50.
way.
Oh, see, was that a reference to? I know exactly what he's referring to. Since I ripped a James May line earlier, he's ripping the other one. So very
James
well
May.
done.
James May might be the second most iconic elderly person of our era.
Who's first?
Morgan Freeman, I think, right? It has to be Morgan Freeman.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. I was just curious. I didn't have an idea. Did Irene get a little bit of assistance here?
Well, whether he did or he didn't, that's not what caused the spin. Being offline is what caused that spin.
But no, I'd agree. James May is he's not even that old. He just looks old.
No, he is. James May's 70-something years old.
No, he's not. I think he's not even 60 yet.
No,
I think he might be 60 years old.
Richard Hammond's like in his late 50s, early 60s.
All right, so Jesse Lee, you're gonna do a Google.
I think he's like 72, 73.
I think you should do a Google. And I will continue chatting about our wonderful partners and apparently elderly men, as these are now two in one. But other than Ready, Set, Sim, if you're looking for gear, if you're specifically looking for more direct drive hardware, Moser Racing has you covered. High quality, extremely well priced gear. I use Moser gear, and that's my rig. My rig is built with them, and I can't say enough good things about it. They are wonderful, and they have you covered if you want sim racing. They have you covered if you want trucking gear. Also, they have you covered if you want flight sim gear. Pimax is our virtual reality partner if you're looking for the absolute pinnacle in terms of VR resolution and quality. Pimax is your place to look. We do have an exclusive discount code with them in the link below. And of course, discounts. We like discounts. I love not spending as much money as I possibly can. Greenman Gaming will have you covered in that regard. If you're looking for new PC titles, they always have deals going on seasonally or just on a random day. Always good to check them out to find hot new deals on hot new releases. And finally, a special thanks to Motorsport UK for being on their list of recommended esports communities. And one final thank you to all of our wonderful partners. And one final thank you to Kevin Boss and Joe Dauber for not doing anything too dramatic while we were talking about old men and our partners. We have Harry Conway in the YouTube chat suggesting maybe David Attenborough, which I would agree with, but I feel like that's more of a... In the U.S., we don't really... This is not as big of a figure. I feel like Morgan Freeman and in fact James May transcends all of the earth with their grasp. But that is a fair point. But we'll get an answer in a few minutes, hopefully, on the age of James May, since that's become the hottest topic of the night. There are 6 minutes remaining in this race. It has been nothing short of absolute cinema. I'm doing the pose. You can't see me, but I'm doing the pose. It's been such a stellar race. Extremely well driven by so many drivers. So many fights, some still looming. Of course, the fight for the lead in Hypercar being the hottest new item. And of course, these two that have kept us entertained for the past few moments as Joe Dauber, he's just being taken to the Kevin Boss School of Defense here. We've always talked about Kevin as an incredibly mature and performant defensive driver. You can catch up to him, but you can't get around him. and Joe Dauber is having to work for it. And he gets closer. He actually gave a little bit of a touch to the back of the faff-clad Lamborghini there. And it's close, but he's going to need to find his way through. I'm wondering for Dauber, usually overtaking at Imola are going to be at the end of straights. Pretty much coming into turn 2 is your biggest and best bet. There's Billy Octane sliding his way through in the Cadillac hypercar, but I'm wondering, and I think we're going to get a bit of a picture of that now that we're on board with Joe Dauber, if the Corvette just doesn't seem to have the legs in a straight line. The Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo 2, to give it its full legal name, is a bit of a specialist in a straight line. It's always been pretty quick for the past couple of months, but he's gaining quite handsomely coming down into the braking zone. I think Kevin's going to go a bit defensive here. Absolutely staying in defensive line. He's sort of just driving up the middle of the circuit, leaving Joe Dauber with nowhere to go, but not as much of an overspeed as I would expect. I mean, you exit a corner 3/10 behind a car, you're probably going to be alongside them. But no, Joe Dauber nowhere close. He's keeping him behind. Matt Malcolm, as he reminds me, he's keeping him behind on pace alone. It's the on pace alone specialist of Kevin Boss versus JD Triple OG. Rune Anzenpamber, of course, has gone quicker. That is immediately deposed by Martin Lorenk. They're getting closer to the 1:52 in terms of lap time. So the track is absolutely getting a bit more comfortable, getting a bit quicker for these drivers. They're pushing to the absolute limit in the closing moments. You can just see Kevin is doing a really good job of putting the car exactly where it needs to be, leaving no room for Joe Dauber to even get alongside. Of course, not blocking, mind you. That is something that's easier to do if you're not paying quite enough attention. But he's doing an incredible job defensively. Eduardo Di Giacomi is within a second of the race leader of Mohamed Colombo. It's been looming for, well, I think the fight's been looming basically for about an hour and 20 minutes. And it seems to be like it is reignited. Giacomi knowing he has maybe 2 laps. I think it's going to be exactly 2 laps remaining in this race. So if he wants to do it, his best opportunity is going to be this lap or the next going into turn 2. It's going to be tough to get alongside that Ferrari 409P. Seems like it's been incredibly quick. Brief yellow flag for Jacob Tucky. And somehow, I think I'm going to get away with no retirements in the hypercar field, even though I'm basically asking them to. The first 1:52 we've seen all night. Rune Anzenpamber, he said, "Oh, that's cool. You did a fast lap. Watch this." I'm pretty sure this guy's just been on a qualifying sim pretty much all night. A bit of GT3 traffic, but Hearn getting right out of the way. He knows that this is the lead fight. He knows that this is the final moments of the race. So he's saying, I'm going to get out of the way. I'm going to let them all through. But it did still slow down Giacomi just a bit. Looking further down the field besides these two, we are still held by Thomas Kauberg in the final podium position. Yuke Den Clay, who has been the quickest driver in terms of 1-lap pace here tonight, is in 4th. Zeno Van Drescha is in 5th. In your LMGT3 field, it's still Rune Anzenpamber leading us, followed by Martin Lorenk, Klaus Neiring 3rd. Kevin Boss still holding off valiantly with Joe Dauber in 5th. We're really playing loose and fast with track limits. It's been so fun to watch everybody. Pretty much, you wouldn't legally be allowed to drive like this if it weren't wet. And I think all these drivers, next time they come to Imola, they're going to need to reframe their heads and be like, right, I can't cut every single corner. And they're going to have to drive it a bit more conservatively as the fight for the wooden spoon, I think, has been decided. It was Fayart's. Jacob Tucky's just behind. Was there a bit of assistance as they come into Piratella? No, it's just the car gets loose and around and not quite into the wall. But in the final moments, don't think there's that being caught up. So it will be the wooden spoon. It's fair to say it will be Jacob Tucky finishing in 8th. He's really closed up as Giacomi in the final moments. The only problem is here, his best opportunity was breaking out of turn 2. That was his best shot. Maybe coming out of Aqua Minerale, he gets a stellar launch and he can do it on the brakes into Variante Alta. But other than that, it might be too little too late. But Giacomi is going to push on nonetheless. A bit of traffic just ahead. And I think it's Billy Octane, the hypercar ahead. And then it's the GT3s ahead of Dauber and Boss. Using all the track and then some coming out. Billy Octane, or excuse me, that's Fabian Schmidberger, who's going to get well out of the way of these two on the brakes into Variante Alta. They're going to be side by side, and I think it's going to be Fabs avoiding action in a huge snap for Giacomi coming out, and I think that's going to be the end of the fight between these two. It was so close, final couple of corners, but now with the wedge that is the GT3s, Giacomi going for a dive on Kevin Boss. He spun Kevin Boss around in the final corner. That's going to mean Boss is going to drop down to 5th. And Giacomi, we were talking about looming penalties. I think that might be a looming penalty now for both drivers. Mohamed Colombo, though, is going to cross the line on pace. Penalties certainly going to be looming, possibly for both of these drivers. So it's going to be a very unique evening for the stewards. They're going to have to make some decisions, and Thomas Kalberg on the podium in the Peugeot for Flanders Esport. Jupten Clegg crosses the line as Runans and Pamber, well, he was just the quickest guy here all night, drifting across the line to take victory in LMGT3. Dion Smits just behind with a sudden congratulatory wallop into the back of the Lexus. Martin Loring wasn't quite able to hang at Imola. Second is going to be best for them. Klaus Neiring's going to be one of the final few cars to cross the line. Everybody, they've gotten to the end of the race. They've survived, and now they know, I don't need to pay for these cars, so they just rip them right into the wall. Neiring will be your final podium finisher in LMGT3, but drama in the final few corners. Heartbreak for Kevin Boss. I do think that there is going to be some words exchanged. Kevin probably a bit perturbed, as it were, and almost certainly going to be submitting some sort of ticket for review to the stewards for that maneuver. Klaus Neiring, though, may have been by a lot, but he's still on the podium. He's going to cross the line in the Iron Dames Porsche. He's going to pull up to, well, the Wreckfest lobby that has become turn 2. We've got, I think that's what, 3 or 4 wheels out in the infield. Okay, that's 3 tires and a rear wing and 3 broken, destroyed race cars on the line. Hey, I mean, they made it. Sorry, that's 2 rear wings because that Lamborghini's missing one. That is the Flanders Graveyard, I think is what that can be called now. That became turn 2. But oh my goodness, what an absolute stellar race. The rain brought drama. The rain brought excitement. It brought everything you want in a motor race. And in the final moments, still a show to be granted. Flash of lights, everybody broken, bruised, battered, but ultimately survived. So I think that's a Lamborghini V10 just ripping, giving us a delight for the ears, delight for the eyes. It's Jacob Tucky in the Metallica livery car, giving it a little bit of donuts. I'm sure he's pleased with an 8th place finish. It is a great result. And celebrating, because why the heck not? Here are your race results, starting with LMGT3 Rune Anzenpamber taking victory in the wet and Imola. Martin Lorick in second. Klaus Nyring in third. Dauber fourth. Kevin Boss fifth. Daniel Hearn sixth. Jans Van Parijs in seventh. Jacob Tucky eighth. And Finn Fayarts in ninth. Matt Townsend, the first of the retirements in our race today. Following that, Christopher Streppen, Ryan Gill, Daniel Gerstenberger, and Gabrielle Ruel were all do not finishers, retirees, with Oscar Siren and Michelle being do not starters. Mohamed Colombo, victory overall in a bit of a, well, we'll see what happens once penalties all come through, but I wonder if there might be some changes in the order. Eduardo Di Giacomi in the final moments, possibly shooting themselves in the foot a bit. Maybe a looming penalty for them as well. Finishes second. Thomas Kauberg in third. Upton Clay in fourth. Marco Badowski fifth. Martin Vaselli in sixth. Octane seventh. Callum Kerrigan is going to finish eighth. Dion Smits ninth. Milan van der Vecken in 10th. It's a group of the usual suspects, but it is definitely a scramble of drivers. And anything, it was everything, it was anything, it was beauty, it was terror, it was one hell of a race. Jesse, you missed a bit of drama in the final moments. I think there are now looming penalties for not just our first place finisher in hypercar, but second place as well. So unfortunately, it will be decided post race, but a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful event all around. And we'll go searching the pit lane, see if anybody wants to talk with us. I think everybody after that race, they're sweaty, they're wet, they're tired, and perhaps wanting to cool off and relax for the rest of their evening. But I believe we've found a
Here we
few.
go. Yeah, we certainly have. Jack, let's do this concisely. We'll do it 2 questions, and we're going to switch off one another.
Done.
Starting with you, Jack. Looks like you're down with Kevin Boss.
Kevin Boss, that was a really well driven race. It was going extraordinarily well. You held off Joe Dauber for far longer than I perhaps thought you able. I may have doubted you a bit, but it all sort of came undone in the penultimate corner. I mean, outside of a bit of upsetness, a bit of anger in the final moments, how do you feel about that race?
Oh, that the start already was, I think, the best start, one of the best starts, if not the best start I've ever had. You know, very quick off the launch, already getting to P4 before the chicane, and then being P3 in this grid, even though it was not for too many laps, because yeah, keeping Klaus Noring behind is a very difficult thing to do. But yeah, 99.995% of this race, I had a blast.
That's good to hear, honestly. And I don't think we'll delve in too much on the final moments, just because that just sucked. But having Dauber behind you like that, I'm pretty sure you were both in the same voice call. I'm sure you were both talking to each other. And was that fun for you? Were you a bit terrified? Maybe did you feel like you had it all in hand, or was it just really gonna come down to the very end?
Well, yeah, it was going to be close until the very end anyway. I really thought Joe was going to catch me faster, because after his spin on lap 1, he caught up very quickly. So yeah, I was not expecting to keep him behind the way I did. But yeah, we were just wishing each other bad luck, so you know, I could get the gap and he could get ahead. So yeah, it was fun. It was really fun. It was great to be fighting these guys, because usually I'm way off their pace and nowhere near. But yeah, this was great fun.
Absolutely stellar result for you, Kevin. Congratulations on that. Glad you had fun. That's what it's all about. Anyone to shout out, anyone to thank before you go?
Well, thank you to everyone for showing up, because without the drivers, we can't race. And I do think there needs to be a little lesson to some people, but we'll let the stewards handle that. I'm not going to comment anything else on that. But yeah, shout out to you guys for putting on the show. Shout out to the drivers for being there.
Well, thank you, Kevin. We're now going to switch over to Mr. Jesse Lee, who is catching up with Mohammed Colombo, the wet weather specialist, the 499p enjoyer, and the Tifosi's favorite.
Hello there.
Yeah, hello, Colombo. Just last week, we were talking about the lack of Ferrari in the hypercar class, I suppose. And here we are 1 week later, and you've won. Talk us through your race. Talk us through the start and then how you approached that race, considering it was close throughout the entire thing. How did you manage to keep upping your game, setting quick lap after quick lap? But again, first of all, let's talk us through the start and how you did all that.
Well, I told my teammate Jupe and Clyde that I was going to send it around the outside because I wanted to lead it from turn one to control the race, and I did try it. I did have to go a bit off-roading, and then afterwards I tried to focus on being consistent and minimizing mistakes as much as possible. That's the key.
Well, it certainly was. It must have felt good. I mean, tell us, was the track conditions improving today? I feel like it was all the time, but you gained 2.5 seconds. Everyone did in that race. What was that like, racing on that sort of interchangeable surface?
I think as the race went on, the rubber on track when it's wet, it gets washed away, so the lap times get faster. But the drivability of the car stays mostly the same. Like throughout the entire race, I'm basically wrestling against it because it just wants to snap everywhere, as you probably saw on the stream.
Well, I gotta say, it was a very interesting race. A lot of people had trouble, but you did not. Congratulations, and we'll see you out there for the rest of the season. I mean, you're going to be chasing more wins now, I suppose.
Oh yeah.
All right, anyone you want to shout out?
Jupe Tenklai, my teammate, he did a wonderful job from being spun last of lap 1 to P4. So he did really good.
Excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, your winner in the hypercar class, Mohammed Colombo. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I found me a Tucky.
You sure did. Well, from the winner in hypercar back down to the winner of my heart, Jack Mays, who's caught up with Jacob Tucky.
Tucky, that was, I mean, I think the result speaks for itself. Listen, it was 8th place. What do you mean? It was a tricky race for sure.
I mean,
100%.
I practiced nothing, so.
You did fantastic with that in mind. You did better than I would have times 1,000. It was definitely exciting for the end for you. You got a little bit of a fight for the wooden spoon,
yeah.
as I was calling it. But I mean, as a whole, how do you feel?
I slowed down for like half a lap to let Finn catch up to me so we can have a fight. So I feel pretty good.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, you've got the wet race under your belt. You've, climbed the latest mountain that is in this championship. Where, I mean, looking forward to next week. How do you feel about Barcelona? I feel like it's a bit of a love-hate circuit.
I feel that I just realized. Yeah, I'm excited because I just realized that I could have downloaded setup from my team all those time, and I still decided to not look for it, and I'm literally loading practice right now.
Well, best of luck with the practice. Congrats on an 8th place finish.
Thank you. I'll try to be in top 3 if possible next week.
That would be amazing. Go for it. I wish you all the
I'll do my best
luck
mate.
on that, George.
I have entire week free from school, so it's just 1 big week of practice.
Awesome. Well, best of luck with that.
Tell me, should I practice with grip medium or saturated?
I think saturated. I think we pretty much always start on high or or full saturated. I'm pretty sure. So I think you can go for a good,
Okay, yeah.
well gripped, dry. Importantly, Barcelona. But we'll
Yeah,
I'm
I
certain
know.
we'll catch up with you next week, and best of luck in next week's race with the lofty goal you've set with yourself.
Yeah, maybe somehow I will even survive this race.
Well, thank you for joining us all the same. We move
Yeah, no
on
problem.
from a Lamborghini to
Would be nice
something.
if you can kick me from the channel as my game is loading and I can't leave.
I can do that. Anyways, from a Lamborghini to something a little bit faster. Mr. Marco Badowski, welcome in. Jesse, any words for our 5th place finisher?
Well, Marco, you were in the fight pretty much all day, absolutely in the thick of it. What was that race like from your perspective in that hornet's nest?
It was quite interesting actually because I did very little practice and I'm driving a new steering wheel, so it was quite challenging for me at first, but Imola is luckily one of my favorite tracks in the game, so I started picking up the pace really quickly and I really surprised myself with how quick I was compared to the field today.
I gotta say, compared to those around you, you kind of had a chill, calm sort of race by comparison. Did it feel like you had a pretty chill race out there, or is that just the cameras playing tricks on us?
Like at first I tried to drive as chill as possible because I knew like some guys were involved in accidents that ended up behind me. So I tried to save energy as much as possible, but like after 15 to 20 minutes I realized I'm not saving that much energy that it's like worth still going for it, and I started picking up the pace a little bit more. Then it got slightly more stressful for me trying to keep up with the guys.
What's your outlook, Marco, going forward in this championship? You posted a top 5. What can we look forward to for the rest of the season?
It's hard to give a outlook for the entire season since I missed the first 2 races, but I think like the tracks that are coming up, I'm quite decent at them as well, so I'll try to take it race by race and see what happens in the end.
Excellent. We love to hear it. Marco, anybody you want to shout out before we go?
Yeah, like Vesely, and I don't know how to pronounce his name. I'm very sorry. He ended up in P4, like one
Clay.
of the like the pace of these guys was quite astonishing from my view. Like I'll have to do some catching up in terms of raw pace to compete with them in the long term.
Well, that's incredibly high praise coming from someone like you, Marco. Thanks for coming and talking to us, and good luck in the future. Back in the series, already posting top 5s in difficult conditions. Ladies and gentlemen, Marco Badowski.
Thanks for having me.
From Marco Badowski to Zeno Van Dresha. Jack, you're down with him.
So, it was not easy out there, was it?
No, not at all. I mean, at the start, I couldn't see anything because of the spray, so I was really careful. Then Joop spun ahead of me, and then I was thinking about just controlling the pace until I had my own spin, which set me back to the back of the field. Then I made my comeback. The pace was coming back to me, and then at the end I was P5, and then the last sector of the race, my PC decides to give up. So in the last sector of the race, I lost P5, and now I'm last.
I didn't even realize that. I didn't know that you're. Oh, that's so unfortunate. So then with that in mind, you're driving a good. It's a tricky race. You come back, you do well, and through no fault of your own, your results taken away from you. I mean, mentally, how do you sort of reset and move on to the next round?
I'm just gonna try to put it behind me. I mean, it was only P5, I guess. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's just going into Arca Minerale, and then I see a black screen, and I already know enough what happened. So yeah, I don't know what to think about. I mean, about this. I mean, there's a drop round, but also at Spa I had a horrible result, so yeah, a little bit unlucky, I guess.
Well, I sincerely hope that your luck turns around for next race and throughout the rest of the season. Regardless, thank you for joining us here on the race, and we'll look forward to seeing you drive the wheels off that BMW throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. Have a nice one.
We were moving on from one quick AF human being to one of the quickest guys I've ever seen behind the wheel of a GT3 car. Jesse Lee is speaking to none other than Martin Lawrence.
Martin Lawrence comes home P2 today in the LMGT3 category. Martin, at certain points, it looked like you were going to go up there and catch Azenpamber and pass them. What was it in the second half of the race that you didn't have that you needed?
Hi, hello to everyone. Obviously, I didn't have I think, the proper car because usually I'm driving Lexus, but I wanted to have a change for this jump. But yeah, the Lexus is way calmer car, and the Mustang is just, yeah. At some point, it did remember what is its nature and turned me into the crowds. But yeah, well, happens all the time. So yeah, I just didn't have the speed. I wasn't nearly quick enough, and when I was pushing it just a tiny little bit harder, it was snappy and it didn't really comply. Maybe the setup, maybe just lack of practice because I didn't have too much. But so yeah, and I can't pronounce the first guy's sorry for the name, but the guy's amazingly fast and consistent. So yeah, well, no chance for me there. Plus, there is a special place in my office down below, like 10,000 feet, where is a boiling water for all those hypercars passing me. There is a special fate.
Traffic was a problem today.
Extreme. It's just there is no. I mean, 3 hypers are maybe patient overall. Other than that, it's just sticking the nose like into the apexes and trying to turn you over, so you need to yield and just, yeah. No, the traffic was horrendous. But even with that, without the traffic, I would be behind like, no, 3 seconds tops, maybe, if I would be really fast. I was really struggling with the pace in the end.
Well, we look forward to seeing you in Barcelona in 1 week's time to renew that rivalry, maybe get that Ford back in victory lane. I will remind everyone at home, Martin's already won in the Ford several seasons ago, looking to continue that tradition in the Blue Oval. Martin, before we let you go, anyone you want to shout out?
To all of my friends, to you guys here, for doing these amazing champs, and for all the people that are driving still, even after COVID, because you know how it ended up with the ACC. So I'm glad to see everyone here.
Well, it's great to have you on the grid as always. Martin Lawrence, P2 today, still in the hunt. Finally, one last interview. I hear that Jack has caught up with Van Paris.
Yeah, and I'm going to do my best because I just went and asked on repeating the Dutch pronunciation. It's Jan van Parijs. Pleasure to have you in the box. Pleasure to have you in the race. Certainly not an easy race out there for anybody. Are you know, how do you feel on the back of that race? Are you pleased with your result? Do you think there was a lot more for you to push for? I mean, tell me about it.
Yeah, well, was a P7 finish, point finish is always good. I think there was a bit more, maybe a P5 would have been possible, but I made a little mistake from my own, and then it only got worse. Some contact with my teammates, some other little mistakes of my own. But yeah, that's racing. But yeah, so all by all, I think I'm very happy with the P7 finish. Some points for the championship. So,
It's definitely a fantastic attitude to have about it. I mean, working your way forward through the field, and Fortunately, it'll be a bit more dry. Well, at least it should be a bit more dry throughout the rest of the season. Is there a specific circuit of your remaining 3 rounds that you're looking forward to? We got Barcelona, Portimao, and Silverstone. Which one of those are your favorite?
Um, I like Portimao. It's one of my better circuits. But then Barcelona and Silverstone, I haven't really driven on them. So I'm gonna need some practice. But I think that won't be a problem. I can make time for that practice, get the pace up, and then yeah, hopefully deliver in the races.
I do wish you best of luck in the remainder of this championship, and congrats again on a hearty points finish. Anybody you want to shout out before you go?
Yeah, well, of course, like always, the entire team. It's always fun with them whilst driving. But also just every driver on track. Well, that wouldn't be a race without the drivers. So yeah, I had my fun tonight. I hope that all the other drivers had theirs as well. So yeah, also shout out to them. And to you
Thank you
guys,
so
of course.
much. Oh, well, thank you so much. We appreciate it, and we appreciate you showing up and delivering a fantastic race. So have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your night, and I'm sure we'll catch up with you sometime later on in this championship.
Yeah, we will.
Mr. Lee, we've done it. We've come to the conclusion of this event. It's been absolutely phenomenal, and it was great catching up with what felt like half the grid in those
I think
last
it
few
actually might have
moments.
been close. It actually might have been close. Can I just say, every single person came in to do an interview. They were on it. There was absolutely no hesitation, and got right down to it. The absolute professionals here in LMU. Jack, before you sign us off for the evening, I think I would be remiss if I didn't call up an error that I made earlier in the show. And I want to address every single person at home. From the bottom of my heart, I sincerely apologize. James May is actually 63 years old, not 73 years old. I apologize. But James, if you are watching, tough luck, mate. Back to you, Jack.
I honestly, a shiver went down my spine. I was so afraid of where you were going to go with that. But yes,
He appears to be a man in his 70s.
I completely agree. I completely agree. And
63.
granted, his persona on television has been everybody making fun of him for being far too old, which it's. Hey, James, you look great, man. I know you're listening, and I know you're a big fan of the
Never
show. And we
change.
just never,
Yeah.
never change. We
He
love you
never
very
misses
much.
he never misses an episode. Yeah.
Yeah. He actually, I have his phone number. He and I text a lot. We're good friends. That's not true. But if you want to hit my line, brother. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to bring an end to round 3 of the multi sprint series here on RCI. An absolute barn burner of a race, even though the barn wouldn't have burned down because it was so freaking wet. One final thank you to all of our wonderful, wonderful drivers who came and braved the storm this evening. Thank you to all of our viewers keeping us in check, saying nice things about us, as I know they always do. One final thank you to all of our wonderful partners who help us do what we do here at RCI. Ready, Set, Sim, Coach Dave Delta, Greenman Gaming, Moser Racing, Pimax, and of course, Motorsport UK. We will be back on Monday for another round of the Mini British GT, our farewell to Mondays on ACC with a guest you'll be familiar with, or that we're familiar with. Ted Edwards is returning in a Mustang, and that is breaking news. Ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful rest of your night. Be safe, take good care of yourself and the people around you, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
You ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Get behind the wheel, let's go. Grip the road, feel the flow. Thunder roaring, still alive. Live this dream and drive.